following is a selected video from masterthecontent.com, where you will find an extensive video library of lectures for a variety of standardized admission tests. We offer over 600 hours of detailed video lectures for a multitude of standardized tests. Use our interactive in-lecture table of contents to find specific topics of interest. Work through numerous in-lecture examples to help you internalize concepts. To learn more, visit masterthecontent.com. Your career, our passion.
Okay, so now we are moving on to examining how Mendel actually crystallized his observations into sound scientific theory. We're going to look at the model that he came up with based on his observations. So there are a few key points in this model, 4 of them actually, and the first one is that alternative versions of genes, which Mendel called hereditary factors, account for variations in inherited characters. These alternative versions of genes are called alleles. So what this tells us is that every character is represented by 2 or more alleles. So in the context of what we're looking at, the character for flower color is represented by 2 different alleles. One of those produces purple flowers, and the other allele actually produces white flowers. So those are alternate versions of the same gene that are accounting for variations in an inherited character. So that's the first thing that Mendel was able to deduce. So the second deduction he made is that for each character, an organism inherits 2 copies of a gene, 1 from each parent. So an organism inherits 2 copies of a gene, 1 from each parent. Now, what's actually remarkable about that second point right there is that Mendel was able to make this deduction without having any knowledge of the existence of chromosomes. We now know that each somatic diploid cell has 2 sets of chromosomes, and each of those sets is gotten from the organism's parents. So each parent contributes a set of chromosomes to form that diploid set. So Mendel was able to figure out that for each character, an organism inherits 2 copies of a gene, and he inherits 1 of those from each parent. So for instance, if we're talking about the character for flower color, an organism will inherit 2 copies of a gene, so 2 alleles, 1 from his mom, 1 from his dad, 1 from the male parent, and 1 from the female parent. And those 2 alleles are actually what are going to determine the character, the color of the flower in this case. Now the third point is what we call the principle of dominance, which simply states that if 2 alleles at a locus differ, then a singular dominant allele determines the organism's appearance. The other allele, which we call the recessive allele, has no noticeable outward effect on the appearance. So the principle of dominance is just basically explaining what we observed in the F1 generation. Remember, in the F1 generation, all the white flowers disappeared right here. The first filial generation had absolutely no white flowers. So the allele that's responsible for purple color is clearly and obviously dominant of whatever allele is responsible for white color, and that's what we are calling the principle of dominance.